talking about the Braves, man, what a crazy year so far for them. Not a good one, as we know. People are talking about hitting rock bottom. I want to hear your thoughts. Do you think they can make it out of the bottom here and start making an impact on the league?
I do think that can happen. And I wrote as much today, Todd, using the examples of the Mets and Astros from last year, who had very comparable records on the same date as the Braves do right now. And I also used the example of the 2021 Braves, who were not much different in their own right on June 5th or 6th or whatever it is. But at some point, while you can cite those examples, like I did, you got to play better. And they have not really played well for quite a stretch here. And yes, they were 0-7. They climbed out of it. But really, they're a 500 team since then. They're still 7 games under 500. And their bullpen issues are pronounced, especially at the back end with Iglesias. I don't know how they're going to fix that necessarily. And their offense has been a major disappointment. Let's face it, 2 years ago, this was a record-setting offense. I know that was an outlier. I know that was unlikely ever to be repeated. But to see Michael Harris and Ozzie Albies not performing the way they should, to see Nick Allen doing what he was expected to do at shortstop, but it amounts to another hole in the lineup, it's just not getting it done. Now, yesterday, they get it done. They score 10, and then they had the bullpen meltdown in the ninth inning, a historic bullpen meltdown. So it was Tom Glavine who said this might be rock bottom. He was their announcer, of course, the Hall of Fame pitcher with the Braves. But I'm not convinced it is. At the same time, at some point, you got to get going. And it's not too late. And as I wrote, long season, expanded playoff format, it is endlessly forgiving. Teams can tank for a couple of months. And I mean tank, play poorly, not tank like the Marlins do. It can happen that way. But again, you have to see some signs of hope. And I will say, last year at this time, we weren't talking about the Mets and Astros being so great. The Mets were just starting to come out of it. The Astros were still 2 weeks away from starting to play better. So this is not that unusual, but at the same time, again, at some point you have to turn it on, and they have yet to do that really for a sustained stretch.
And then I want to get into coaching wise. So Brian Snitker, is he on the hot seat right now? Is there a, and you know, it's going to be a tough decision they're going to have to make if they don't start winning here, right or wrong.
I don't expect that they will fire him no matter regardless of what happens. I don't expect him to get fired. And he's accomplished too much. They've made the postseason 7 straight years, the first 6 of those that were division titles. He's been in the organization 49 years. I know fans don't want to hear this. They're screaming their heads off for his head, for Anthopoulos' head, but I just don't expect they're going to make a change unless for some reason he decides to step down, and I don't see Brian Snicker quitting on a season. So the question then becomes, okay, is this it for him? That I can see. I can see after this year, and he's talked about possibly doing this, stepping down, taking another role in the organization, maybe becoming some kind of emeritus person. But while Snicker is not blameless here, as I wrote today, and there were questions yesterday, there were questions all the time with all managers, really. But there are other things going on with this team, performance-wise, that simply have to change and that are not on him. I'm sorry, it's not on him that Michael Harris has a 580 OPS or that Ozzie Albies has a 650. That's not him. And when Iglesias doesn't have it together, that's not really on him either. Now, the mood of a club, the environment around the club, sure, a manager is responsible for that. They aren't the same team that they've been. They've had changes over the last few years. Freddie left, Swanson left, Fried left. It's a different group. And it's his job to get the best out of that group, yes, but I don't know that you can pin this entirely on Brian Snicker. It's easy. It's what people like to do on social media. Him, Anthopoulos, let them all go, right? But when we're talking about that kind of thing, it's a tough thing to do to a guy of that stature right now. It's something that I will say this, if to a fan out there, if you were in an organization 49 years and you were as accomplished as Brian Snicker and people were talking about firing you because your team's underperforming, how would you feel about that? That's how I would put it.
Yep.
And they've been to 7 straight playoffs. And another thing you wrote in your article that just popped out to me, comfort in contracts. It's never a side that I even looked at, but you kind of mentioned it. Have these players become comfortable because of the contracts they've given out?
The way I phrased it was, is it too comfortable an environment with so many guys signed to extensions? And I don't know the answer to that, but it's a fair question. and it will be continuing to be a fair question if this does not turn around. Alex Anthopoulos made deals that most of the industry thought were really well executed and kind of brilliant. Getting guys locked up early, getting them long term. The flip side of that is that those deals don't always work out. And the Michael Harris one is a questionable one right now. Even Spencer Strider, until he gets back to where he was, you wonder why they did that so soon. So it's a question that I have, that people have raised to me at times. I'm not ready to say yet, as I said in the article, that, yeah, this is the problem. Or I'm not ready to say that it's Freddie and Fried and Swanson leaving that is the problem. But maybe all of these things together have just created a different culture around the team, a different kind of environment. And maybe it's not the best environment. Maybe they need a kick in the rear a little bit in some fashion.
Ken, last question. And before that, a quick statement. Any Braves fan that has a problem with the work of Alex Anthopoulos over the past 5 years or so, I think you got to look in the mirror. And also you got to look at some other organizations. So a little psychotic. But anyway, if this team somehow does become a seller at the trade deadline, I'm trying to look through who's not locked up for a while and think, Marcell Ozuna as an impact bat. Raisel Iglesias does have some decent peripheral numbers, even though obviously he's given up a bunch of homers and there's definitely some highs and lows there. But could he help a team even in a 7th or 8th inning? Absolutely. I don't know if there's anything else you see from that team that stands out.
Chris Sale, if you wanted to do it, but I don't believe the Braves are going to sell. And for them to sell, remember, they're going to have to fall out of it. They're going to have to be buried. And even in a league as strong as the National League is this season, it's hard to be buried in this format with 3 wild cards. If you're around 500, you've got a chance. Now, they're not at 500 right now, and maybe instead of 7 under at the deadline, they're 17 under, and that's a different story. Then they're buried. But if they're 3 under or 2 under, well, they were kind of like that in 21, and look what happened. Now, it took a lot of trades to get them to where they needed to be, but I just don't see them punting a season like that. And I don't frankly see the Red Sox doing it either. Another team that people are talking about as sellers. Maybe they trade Duran if they get the right deal to open the spot for Anthony at some point. Maybe. But I don't see them outright selling. It's just not the way they're built, and they want to win this year. That's what they're trying to do. They don't want another disappointing season. So keep in mind, we look at these things and, oh, this team's playing badly. That team's playing badly. They're going to sell. First of all, there's a long way to go to the deadline. Second of all, keep in mind what the team's intentions were at the start of the season. They're not going to give up that easily. Not saying it won't happen, but to say it's going to happen on June 6th is a little premature.
And 2021, by the way, those brilliant trades were made by Alex Anthopoulos.
Yeah,
exactly.
I went on. Point. You can question their offseason last year. Their offseason, they let a lot of people go. They created payroll flexibility, and really Profar was their only big move. And of course, that has not worked out great. They didn't really address the bullpen. There weren't many other ways to address the offense. So you can question that. It wasn't a great offseason. I don't think even Anthopoulos would say that. But body of work, hello, you're absolutely right, Scott. Why don't you look at some other teams, see how they're doing, and see who is running that show or their shows, and then get back to us.
Hey everybody, be sure to like and subscribe for more content.
We're back here every weekday, all year long, so do not miss an episode.
The videos are coming in all day. Here's another video you might enjoy.
Baseball the way it should be covered.